I'm known in the business as a motherfucker that's just I don't have a temperament for bullshit, and I'm quick to call you out on your shit, and just to keep it 100, because we don't need to come around pretending to be who we're not. And when I saw what he did with According to Him and Her, this is the funniest Wild 'N Out story. Okay. I never wanted to be on Wild 'N Out. It was never my cup of tea. Right. But I love the show. Wild 'N Out, Nick Cannon went to Jim Brewer. Oh, hold on. We have Kevin. Kevin, come here, man. Come in on this. All right, I'm sorry. It's all good. Come here. We're going to have .com sit down with you guys because I want y'all to hear something that y'all need to know, because this is history. Give it up, ladies and gentlemen. My business partner, my motherfucking mentor, one of my fucking heroes in the game. Give it up for .com from 30 Rock, man.
Yeah.
It's so
Back of the lack.
It's so ironic that we're having this story and this moment right now, because we interviewed .com for Fire in the Hole Patreon, okay? And he told the story. Was it Jim Brewer that came? Tell the story, .com. How Wild 'N Out came about.
Okay, so I heard this story because I used to own this club called the Uptown Comedy Club back in the days, like opened in probably 1989. Right?
Are you familiar with the Uptown Comedy Club?
I mean, I just heard it in passing in like people conversations. Like every time, if I would hear a story like this or from whoever.
You know who Tracy Morgan is?
Yeah, of course.
You know Jim Brewer.
I don't know Jim.
Jim Brewer. You know him by face. He was in Half Baked. JB Smooth.
Chris
Tucker.
JB Smooth, of course.
all these guys started.
All right, Jim Brewer was in Half Baked. Who was he?
The white guy. The
Right there. The stoner guy. Like that. He's right there. He's
okay.
right there on the screen.
And he played.
Fully, man.
Yeah.
Man. Okay, yeah.
Willie, man.
Yeah.
This nigga funny.
Yeah.
But Kev, please tell them the story how the motherfucking Wild 'N Out was birthed.
Okay, so Uptown Comedy Club was right in Harlem on 125th Street. And it's where hip-hop comedy started, right? Before the Uptown Comedy Club, if you went to a comedy club, they would have a stool, a microphone, and a piano, all right? No one had ever put a DJ with comedy on a regular basis. So when we opened the Uptown Comedy Club on 125th Street, we were the first ones to ever put a DJ playing the hottest, playing the part of the song that you play in the club. So people dancing in their seats.
Right.
When the comic comes and he touched the mic, the crowd is already hyped. So now it's the comic's job to get up there where the party is.
Right.
To
Def Comedy
get through
Jam
the show.
shit, basically.
Def Comedy Jam started at the Uptown Comedy Club.
Okay.
All right, Russell Simmons was going bankrupt. He came to the Uptown Comedy Club. He shook my hand and said, "We're gonna do a TV show together." He ended up stealing the show from me. Called it Def Comedy Jam, and it was on HBO, right? So anyway, we did this show called the Uptown Comedy Club. We took that thing and we put it on TV. And we had sketches, we had games, we had, it was
music. He would have fit right in on that show.
We had music, we had DJ, we had the whole nine, right? So Jim Brewer, a couple of years ago, I did a documentary on the Uptown Comedy Club. So I sent a camera crew out to interview a ton of comedians. So my crew went out and found Jim Brewer. As a matter of fact, Jim Brewer called. He heard I was doing the documentary. He called, he said, "Kev, I want to be on this thing. Get 2 hours ready because I got some stories to tell." And Jim Brewer was already on SNL. He had his Sirius radio show and whatever. He said, "Get 2 hours ready." So he sat in front of a camera for 2 hours telling stories about how him as a white boy used to come from Long Island to 125th Street back in 1992 doing comedy, right? So he tells the story about how he was sitting home with his wife. Wild 'N Out had just come on TV. And he's watching this show. And he calls his wife in and says, "Babe, take a look at this show. Ain't this just like the Uptown Comedy Club? Oh, this dude, Nick Cannon, stole the Uptown Comedy Club, is what he says to his wife. So then he goes on to tell the story of how he was doing a Jerry Seinfeld show. Jerry Seinfeld had a show on NBC, it'll probably last for a season, that Jerry Seinfeld had produced about dating or something like that. I forget the name of the show, probably as I'm talking, it'll come to me. But he was a guest on this show, and Nick Cannon. Jim Brewer was a guest, and Nick Cannon was a guest on the show at the same time.
Okay.
Now, Jim was feeling some kind of way, because in his mind, Nick Cannon was on that bullshit. He stole Wildin' Out from us, Uptown Comedy Club. So he sees.
But how would Nick Cannon have seen that though?
Everybody saw it.
It's on Fox 5.
Yeah, it was a nationally syndicated TV show.
Oh.
It was on TV. You can. What's that?
That's not the version D-Rex gives us.
What's the who? DJ D-Rex.
DJ D-Rex, yeah.
What's not the version? You mean the story I'm telling, or the?
He said it started in his living room.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, of course, but they're trying to say before that.
And,
But, I mean, but in
listen,
Nick,
listen. Go ahead.
Okay, so we opened the Uptown Comedy Club in 1989. So if you 30 right now, and say something started in your living room, when the Uptown Comedy Club came on, you was probably 4 or 5 years old. So D-Rec, I don't know him, not trying to disrespect him, but he don't know what he's talking about.
but D-Rex is 40 something.
Okay, so that means he was 14 when we started the comedy club. He wasn't even old enough to get in comedy club. You see my point?
Okay.
So the point is, so Jim Brewer's feeling some kind of way because he saw this show. He thought Nick Cannon was dissing us. So he happens to be on this NBC show, a guest the same time Nick Cannon is there.
Okay.
So he's feeling some kind of way, right?
Okay.
Nick Cannon comes up to him and says, "Yo, Jim Brewer, what's up, man? I'm a fan of your work." But Jim is kind of dissing him because he's, this motherfucker stole the show. So he says, "Yeah, okay, whatever, man. How you doing?" And he says, No, you don't understand. I'm a fan of your work even before Saturday Night Live. I'm talking about the Uptown Comedy Club. So Jim is one of those dudes where when you mention that, now Nick Cannon disarmed him. Oh man, really? So now Jim Brewer's listening. So Jim tells a story of how he just had to ask Nick.
Right.
Nick, let me ask you something, man. So you familiar with the Uptown Comedy Club? Don't you think Wildin' Out was a little bit close to? And he said, Nick Cannon goes, "Nah, man, that's what I was trying to do. I'm trying to pay homage to the Uptown Comedy Club."
Oh, okay.
Right?
Well.
So the whole beef, the whole feeling that Jim had at the time, oh, so Nick is cool. He's telling the truth. He's shooting straight with me. But if you don't know your history of the comedy game, you don't know these stories, right? You'll hear some DJ tell some version of the story about some shit started in his living room. You was 14 when we was out in the comedy club blazing the trail, right?
Right.
So, but that's where it came from. Jim Brewer stepped to him. Nick Cannon co-signed it, and it was all good.
That's a fact, and it's so ironic that .com just happened to be here while this is going on right now, while we're interviewing you guys, so y'all can hear about that. And dude, we're gonna tag Nick in this story. It's not gonna be us. We don't hide nothing here.
Right. No.
And then let's nigga, fuck that. Let's get what we got. Yeah, let's start having some extra crispy talk now.